Hi, everybody. Welcome, contributors to Grieving Hope and whoever else is watching. Thank you for being here. Um, we're going to have a lovely, I'm saying this in advance because I'm convinced it will be a lovely little meeting today where we're going to hear these beautiful, beautiful women read from their beautiful, beautiful work in this beautiful, beautiful book, Grieving Hope. Unfortunately, one of our contributors, Charlotte Hamrick, couldn't make it today. But buy the book and you'll be able to read her work. It's gorgeous. Okay, so I just want to say a few words about this volume. Put out by ELJ Editions, of course. And it was the brainchild of Ariana Den Blaker, who is basically ELJ Editions. And she said, asked me, do you want to edit a volume of micro chapbooks titled Grieving Hope? And I said, wow, that title is really like so interesting. What does it mean? And that was one of the most exciting parts of this journey for me because I had no idea what was going to come in terms of submissions. And I was so wonderfully surprised. And each of the contributors just had such an amazing um, take on the theme of grieving hope. So you will I don't have to say what it is because you will hear what it is once they start reading. I am just going to read what I wrote in the introduction about each of their micro chapbooks. I do want to say one of the wonderful things about this was that we had a lot of vignettes, and I love vignettes personally, and it was just exciting to see some of them put together. We're going to go in order of how the micro chaps appear in the book. So the first contributor up is Kim Studerman Rogers. And I'm going to read what I wrote in the intro, and then I'm going to say her bio. And before I don't want to forget. So let me just ask you. Well, I'll read it first, and then if I forgot to ask you a question, Kim, you tell me. Ask me a question. Okay. Kim Studeman Rogers writes of environmental, animal, and human loss in Denatured Stories of Change through stories that intertwine all of the above. There is the grief of losing a beloved dog, a seal, the precious Akiki. There is human loss too, a marriage, infertility, substance abuse. In each of the stories, Rogers examines the relationships between humans and animals and humans and mangoes. The result is a unique collection that will not only make you feel but make you think. Rogers experiments with form. In animal nature, we are treated to the thoughts and experiences of an elder pig. In A Kindness of Ravens, we learn of how ravens on several occasions saved a character's life. In Things Washed Ashore When the Whales Went Extinct, Rogers lists item upon item that pollute the oceans and might someday be responsible for the extinction of whales. While Rogers shares how humans are culpable, she also writes movingly about how people work to save the environment, how the environment saves us, and how we save what we can in each other. Kim Studeman Rogers lives in Hawaii. Her prose has published recently in Ghost Parachute, Five South, Gooseberry Pie Lit Magazine, and elsewhere. Her science journalism in National Geographic, Smithsonian, and Audubon. Kim's stories have been nominated for Pushcart, Best Microfiction, Best Small Fiction, and Best of the Net honors. She was awarded residencies at Story Knife Writers Retreat in 2016 and 2021, and at Dorland Mountain Arts in 2022 and 2023. She holds an MFA from Antioch University, Angeles. You can find her on select social media at Kim Rogers. So, Kim, before you read a selection from your micro chat, can you just tell us about how you interpreted the theme? What when you saw the call for submissions, what made you decide to to say, I want to be part of this, and
Sure.
what that was all like for you?
Sure. And first, though, Diane, I want to say, gosh, I mean, you interpret writing so beautifully, and my collection and the words that you wrote about it in the introduction just is amazing. So, thank you. And the first thing that attracted me to this call for submissions was actually your name. You're such a champion of writers. I've been included in a previous anthology that you edited, and anything that Diane is offering, and I'm going to be first in line. So, first thing that attracted me was Diane, because I knew I would be well taken care of. And I think that introduction that she read is a perfect example of that. But then, in thinking about the theme, grieving hope, I got to thinking, I think a lot of what we write, if it's got emotional resonance, no matter if we're writing prose or poetry, whatever it might be, is a lot of dealing with grief of some form. A loss of a relationship, a person, an animal, a pet, like you mentioned in the introduction. But also, I write a lot about the loss of species. Living here in Hawaii, it's known as the endangered capital of the world. Um, Loss and then grieving that loss is a big part of that work. And so it instantly, grieving hope instantly spoke to me with the kind of writing that I do. And half the challenge, right, is when you're working in that field is how can you stay hopeful and how can you stay positive and continuing to work. So anyway, that was just a little bit that went through my mind when I saw the call. So thank you for that. And thank you to ELJ Editions, and thank you to Ariana, and also to all the many people and teachers that I've had to get me to this point. Okay, shall I read? Fabulous. Okay. I'll try to not read too many depressing ones to start us off with today. The first one you mentioned is about mangoes. So it's Mango Madness, and I selected to read it today because it was actually published in Emerge Literary Journal. Um, so let's get started. Mango Madness. It was morning, the third of my honeymoon, and I headed out for my solo run. From a distance, I saw colorful dots on the road that turned out to be mangoes, fallen and run over by tourists' rental cars. I dodged the meaty pulp on the ground the way I would dodge mud puddles, intent on keeping my regular 8-minute mile pace, when a mango fell, brushing my shoulder and swirling to the ground at my feet, stopping me. I took it as a sign and picked it up, rubbing its smooth skin to my cheek and catching a sweet scent emoting near the stem's end. Without thinking, I sunk my teeth into the fruit, juice dribbling down my chin, following the curve of my neck, down my chest, and between my breasts. I looked up into the dense umbrella of slender leaves, staring up at its fruity, sunset-colored ripe ornaments. I was in love. Every morning for the 6 days left of my honeymoon, I returned to this mango tree, eating one mango after another, handfuls of mangoes, so many mangoes, sure the yellow-orange meat was key to my fertility. When it came time to leave, I slipped a mango pit into my suitcase. 6 weeks later, a stick turned pink. I knew it. Hopeful. I planted the mango pit into the ground, but 33 days after that, I miscarried. I wanted to try again, but there were no mangoes. It was too soon. It took 10 years for the tree to fruit. By then, there were no more eggs. I watched as green mangoes ripened into sunbursts and fell to the ground, eaten alive by ants and flies. One day I went outside and gathered a basket of mangoes. I had meant to bury them, mark their graves with a stone, but their aroma overtook me, and I sat on the ground caressing each mango against my cheek, tears mixing with the oils of the fruit on my face. Soon, my face started burning, my hands itching. This time, the oils weeping from the mango ignited, oozing blisters on my skin. My throat tightened. My heart grew dizzy. I struggled to pull air into my lungs. All that was left was for me was to scratch my heart out. And next, I will read A Kindness of Ravens. It started when the tide ebbed and ravens winged it for the public library, where Aaron and townsfolk flocked in the parking lot, even in the foul Alaska weather, because Alaskans knew weather was like a cantankerous great aunt who had to be acknowledged, but could also be ignored. At noon, everyone doled out food to the resident birds. But this time, the ravens didn't stop at the library. They disappeared over the ridge, and Erin knew what that meant, dropping her french fries and climbing to the roof of the library, even before the tsunami bell rang. The second time a raven saved her life. Erin was 17 and foraging for morels in the Cascade Mountains when a whiteout swallowed the hiking trail. Erin knew the most important thing to do was to stay positive, so she sang, "Shake It Off," the snow dense as blackout curtains, her words hitting a dull reverb when she made out the shape of a raven with sapphire eyes in flight and followed the breadcrumbs of shiny pebbles it dropped all the way back to her SUV. Over the years, Erin lost track of the number of ravens that have come to her rescue. Once in an alley outside a bar on Haight Street in San Francisco, a guy she throated tequila shots with started getting rough when a siren chirped, causing him to run. And Erin saw a one-legged raven perched on a window ledge. Was that a smirk creasing its beak? But the kindest thing a raven has ever done for her, standing on Santa Monica Pier, having just hung up with her mother's news about her father, is this: a raven sitting a foot away, preening and scratching, a raven just being a raven and allowing her into the moment. I'll stop there. Thank you again, Diane, and congratulations to my fellow contributors. It's been so great to read your work and get to know you as well.
Thank you so much, Kim. That was beautiful. Really beautiful. Thank you. Okay. Next up, we have Ronita Chattopadhyay. Ronita,
It's
say your
okay.
last name for me. I,
It's okay. It's okay.
say it, say it, say it.
See, if I say it, I'll say it the way we say it. It'll be Chattopadhyay.
Chattopadhyay.
Huh.
Better, right? Better? Almost, almost. Okay, well, I can't pronounce her name perfectly, but I hope I do a better job at introducing you because your work is gorgeous. And let me read what I had to say about your work in the introduction. In preparing to get wrecked, Ronita Chattopadhyay examines the power of that first loss, the one that changes our lives and colors the way we view losses to come. The narrator's first deeply felt loss is a complicated one, the death of a childhood friend by accidental drowning, that leaves the narrator asking questions she will never be able to answer. Whys and what ifs swim in gorgeous water imagery. Reminders of the loss are everywhere and in everything, and the narrator wonders how to prepare herself for the inevitable future losses she will experience. Hope breaks through the veil of grief towards the end of the collection. Chattopadhyay offers loving rays of hope in a piece addressed to the 10-year-old me. She closes out the collection with a poignant reflection on how communion with others who share the same loss helps to keep memory alive. Ronita Chattopadhyay finds refuge in words. Her work, which almost always seems like poetry to her, has appeared in the Hooley Review, Roy Fanon Press, Kiwi Magazine, Street Cake Magazine, C2, Rogue Agent Journal, RIC Journal, Porch Literary Magazine, Drive, Femasia, among others, and anthologies by Querencia Press, Winter Anthology 2024, and City Press, To Light the Trails, Poems by Women in a Violent World. She lives in West Bengal, India, and loves mountains, books, and tea. So, Ronita, um, can you answer the same question I put to Kim? What brought you here to submit to Grieving Hope? How did you interpret the theme? Anything you want to say about that?
I think that, yeah, it was very kind of interesting when I saw the call for submission on Twitter. I still find it difficult to call it X. So, and I think like so many acquaintances come friendships happened from there, including like this great opening, this opportunity. So when I saw the theme, it kind of immediately grabbed me because over the last couple of years, I have found myself writing a lot about grief and about anticipatory grief. I think that has to do with a lot of my friends and myself being at a particular age where we see our parents dealing with health issues, and there is this constant reminder of frailty and mortality. There is also something that Kim mentioned, like also anticipatory grief and actual grief for the environment, for nature, for particular ways of life that we see disappearing before our eyes. So, in that sense, I think somewhere around COVID, after COVID, I found myself gravitating towards these kind of themes more. And I really like that juxtaposition of grief and hope, because I think somewhere that is also a part of our journeys. Maybe it is the human instinct for survival or coping or resilience, and also maybe that we maybe humans ultimately want to look forward and we try to find hope. So, so in that sense, just that grief and hope together made a lot of sense in very strange, kind of remarkable ways. And it became like a very important point for me to then look back at my own personal experiences of loss, real, imagined, anticipated. And another thing that I felt was while I was putting it together was a lot of my writing centered friendships. So there is loss of friends, school friends, college friends, friends you make along the way but somehow lose track, and you perennially feel guilty about it, and then to be suddenly confronted with their loss. So I think that was also something that by the time I closed this whole thing, I felt good that I was able to write about friendships, because somehow I feel that is one thing that maybe does not get written about as much as familial relationships, or like romantic relationships and other relationships. So those were the kind of strands that were at play here. And yes, of course, like the first loss of a friend, that was kind of like the at the heart of everything.
Thank you. So go ahead and read.
Yeah,
We're
okay,
waiting on the edge of our seats.
I'll read the first piece which begins the collection also. And so this also appeared in a literary magazine, Porch Literary Magazine, which showcases Southeast Asian and South Asian voices. So this appeared there. So it's called Viridescent Grief. I am in a small wooden boat with two friends. Three friends are in another boat, and you are in the water. I had read about the beautiful translucent waters of the Umgot River in Doki in Meghalaya, India. I had seen pictures. We had wondered, do the waters really look that green? Is it because of the underwater plant life? Nothing had suggested that I would also see you. I am not really surprised though. I have been seeing you in rivers and seas and ponds and mountain streams and swimming pools for so long now. This time, your face is much softer, a little blurred. My friends are arguing passionately about the color of the river water. They turn to me. I am not sure, I say. Maybe you need to get your eyes checked, is what they don't say. I am looking at something else, someone else, is what I don't say. Our small boats make their way to the other side and back. And I think let us go to the hopeful one, the 10-year-old one. So, this is towards the end of the collection. What I would like to tell 10-year-old me about survival strategies. You have amazing friends at home and school, and you will be blessed with friends later too. Be a witness when they need that and an active participant too. Hold on to them. Some will leave you and this world before their time. And when that time comes, cry as much as you want, for as long as you want. Mourn them however you need to. There is no timeline or script for grief, any kind of grief. Don't stop saying hi to that bottle brush tree you love and the other interesting trees you will meet. Keep making tattoos with silver ferns as long as you can. Maybe stop trying to taste all the leaves you find. All of them are not going to be tasty or even edible. You don't want the bad surprises that can lead to. And God knows there'll be enough tragedies in life. But there will also be a lot of things that bring you joy. Warm sunlight on your face on a winter morning, the quiet luminosity of the moon for your company at night. Well, most nights. A ground littered with flowers that are beautiful even after they fall. Books and music and art that will somehow find you at the right time. Friendships and loves that will carry you as much as you carry them. And try befriending hope and happiness. And keep writing too. Thank you.
Your own,
And it's been
Nita.
such a joy to be a part of this and to have all these amazing writers and to get to know Diane better and ELJ and Ariana. So it's been like a huge, amazing experience. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Ronita. And it's been such a joy for me. And I think it's everybody's first chapbook. Yeah, yay. So that is extra joyful. And I just have to say about your last piece, I think it should be a guide for all of us. I wish your 10-year-old had it. Um, but it's never too late to follow those
Yeah.
suggestions. So thank you. Thanks. Okay. Next up, Christina. Christina Tabor takes us down the heartbreaking path of her mother's dementia in Memory's Ebb. Using a quiet, matter-of-fact tone, Tabor provides a stark and startling contrast to her mother's cognitive decline. These are not small losses. Once a fiercely independent woman, Tabor's mother loses the ability to live on her own. She becomes an easy target for scammers. Her confusion is terrifying to her and to those who love her. Her once vibrant personality wilts, and she forgets. First, it's where she puts the phone, then how often she sends the same text. She forgets words, forgets how to drive, how to feed herself, how to swallow. Here still, in Tabor's patience, In the loving care she provides and in the memories Tabor holds of her mother, whole and remarkable, hope lives. Christina Tabor writes short fiction and nonfiction. Her work appears in Best Microfiction 2023 and many literary journals. She has an MFA from Randolph College and lives in the Washington, D.C. area. Oops, the question. I almost forgot the question. Okay, Christina, how and why and whatever you want to share.
Thanks, Diane. Thank you so much. And like everyone else, I'm so grateful for your kind words and care with our writing. I so greatly appreciate it. So I had been writing for a few years about caregiving for my mother, and both fiction and creative nonfiction, and had started assembling enough pieces that could potentially go in a small collection. So when I heard the call for Grieving Hope, it was just it was like a light for me. I had previously published a few of these pieces in literary journals, but largely have found that a lot of editors didn't necessarily want to publish sad stories, and so was just so incredibly lucky to find a place that welcomed sort of the grieving side of things, while also acknowledging that there is another side to grief, which is hope, and certainly something that I felt while caregiving for my mother. I'm so glad that I found this opportunity, and grateful for being in such good company here. I am going to read. I'm going to start by reading a piece called Swallow. Mom loved brie, creamy, soft chunks sandwiched with rind, paired with the crusty end of the baguette. Strawberries quartered and sprinkled with sugar. Roast pork with crispy rinds and candied yams for Christmas. Now, at the age of 70, the doctor says she must stop eating solid food. After 2 unsuccessful surgeries, her esophagus is broken. I'm there, as I am at all doctor's appointments, because Mom has dementia and can't care for herself. They also find saliva in her lungs, a sign that she's forgetting how to swallow. This dysphagia could kill her, as it does in half of all dementia patients. When my son was born, my milk didn't come in. He wouldn't latch. All I wanted was to feed him, but my body didn't cooperate. I went to a lactation consultant. I pumped every last drop out of my aching breasts. I paid for the real stuff, milk from a milk bank expressed by other mothers. It was an exhausting, expensive, depressed time. After weeks, I switched to formula. And yet, Mom asked at the time, "Shouldn't you try again? I'm sure he'll latch soon." She had 4 kids and couldn't fathom being unable to do such a simple thing as breastfeeding. After the appointment, I bring her some soup. She looks at the spoon and says, "What's this for?" She clumsily opens the plastic top, the broth reaching the brim of the clear quart container. I clean the spill because it seems like the only concrete thing I can fix in that moment of shock, the first time she forgets how to feed herself. A favorite video shows me feeding my son a bottle of formula. He makes little sucking noises, the sound of a baby eating, swallowing, nourished. In that video, I look so happy, rested, and in love with my boy. Now my son is older, he feeds himself. He loves mashed potatoes, French fries, instant oatmeal with little sugared dinosaur eggs. He pulls over a step stool to the kitchen cabinet and grabs himself a small bowl for dessert after he's cleaned his plate. It's a wonder that this is the same child who was once just over 5 pounds, cradled in my arms, sucking from a bottle. Although my son couldn't latch as an infant, he always knew how to suck, how to swallow. Not all babies are as fortunate. My mother's condition, dysphagia, is common in small children too. To treat it, adults and kids alike have to adjust their diet, get therapy to ingest food differently, tip their head, move their tongue. Babies have the advantage. They can still learn, brains like little sponges. Dementia makes the brain like a sponge run dry. Corners breaking off, crevices molding. For mom, therapy unremembered doesn't take. And then I'll read just one more. This is Dementia's Orphans. Six sets of plants and cut flowers surround my mother in varying stages of life and decay. She sits in silence while I help the movers inventory her things. A ficus holds on to the north-facing window. A poinsettia in red foil hasn't moved since Christmas. Its curled, dried leaves litter the floor. Standing water smells rank in the iris bowl. Bulbs pop out of a wood planter packed with straw, supposed to foster new spring growth. Instead, it's swampy. She watered it, forgot, then watered it again and again and again. Like these plants, my mother's mind wilts, molds, droops. First, little things, dates and times, slipped her mind. She fell victim to fraud. She lost words, and without language, she stopped engaging with friends and family. She forgot how to plug in the blender and how to turn off the oven. She failed a driving test. Now, movers measure the furniture to see if it'll fit in her new apartment at the care home. This, they say, pointing to a 4-decade-old lamp with moth holes in the shade. This, to a seedy tower untouched in years. This is a good piece of furniture. They point to the teak dining room table. Let's try to take as much of it as we can, I say. Mom sits on the couch, cheeks sagging, biting skin off her fingers. When I hug her, she leans in with her head on my stomach, and then she abruptly pushes me away. The movers don't notice the burst of anger. One of them points, "This ficus is a good hardy plant." Its spindly 6-foot branches drink in the suburban sun in the same place it sat for decades. We see this all the time. Orphan plants, they say. Pots that can't possibly move to a space with 3 windows instead of 12. Plants that are easier to throw in the dumpster than stack in a moving truck. It's sad, they say, to see these thriving, living things left behind. The movers adopt them, give them a new home and attention. They bring them back to life. Before my mother forgot how to use her email, she regularly sent me notes titled Memories, with no message, just photos from years past. These images show her holding her grandchildren with a recognition and love unseen now for years. The Christmas cactus bloomed pink in the background. Fresh cut lilies extend their stamen, perfuming the room. Echoes from the past, the smiles, the smell, the growth and bloom. Now mom moves to a home with professional caretakers who understand age and infirmity. She should have everything she needs: activities, amenities, companions. I bring plastic and polyester peonies to warm her new apartment, arrange the stems in a crystal vase, set it on the sill. The next time I visit, I catch her watering them. She won't say, "I love you" before I leave, but all of us are resilient, despite mom's forgetting. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Christina. Beautiful. Thanks. Okay, to close out the volume is Janet Murray. Let me get you in the. Okay, here we go. I lost my page for a second, but I found it. Okay. Janet Murray's The Doctor may be the most difficult read in the volume, as it speaks to a horrific period in Canadian history. Murray sends chills through the reader in her one-sentence opening. My father was a residential school doctor. What follows is her attempt to piece together information and gain understanding of her early life and the likelihood that her father was paid by the Canadian government to conduct medical experiments on Indigenous people. Mary recently learned there were 96 bodies beneath the property I grew up on that was part of the Stolo Nation. What does one do with such devastating pieces of knowledge? How does she hold the grief of a painful childhood along the great harm perpetrated against a community and a people at the hand of her father and others in her family circle? Muri moves back and forth between time periods in her life and between her father and her mother in short, stark, beautifully crafted chapters. The hope lies in Muri's quest to uncover and to share what she has discovered, to shine a light on a dark time and her family's place in it, and to find her own way through her family's past. Janet Muri has the good fortune to live on the unceded territory of the Cowichan people on Vancouver Island and spend time writing, avoiding writing, and watching for wildlife from her home in the woods.
Thanks, Miss Anne.
Yeah. Can you answer the same question about grieving hope?
I can. And thank you. And also thank you to everyone. Those readings today seemed like especially beautiful. Yeah, like the term grieving hope really struck me. The juxtaposition of grief and hope and how they go together seemed exactly about the story that I wanted to tell, but also I've continued to think about it since the book came out, uh, right up right up until today. I still think about the idea of grieving hope, and now I'm thinking of it more as a statement. I think sometimes we grieve the hope that we had and lost. And as we get older, maybe we grieve our inability to continue to feel hopeful. I'm not sure. I'll continue to explore that a little bit, I think. Thanks for asking. Okay, let me launch right into it. My father was a residential school doctor. I recently learned of the discovery of 96 bodies beneath the property I grew up on that was part of Stolo Nation. 9. I was 9 when we moved there. The property felt massive to a child, although it would be large by any measure. There was a house, a large rose garden, and an orchard, and my sister and I rarely left this area. I can't remember if we had been told not to wander or just preferred not to. Then there was the enormous lot the hospital sat on, imposing and ominous red brick. I never went inside or even close to the front doors. Behind the hospital were residences for the doctors, small houses like army barracks. The house was out of a storybook with an attic, a root cellar, places I was sure held some kind of secret. But no matter how often I went back to check, they were always empty, scrubbed of whatever treasures they might have held. The storybooks lied. The house had 2 living rooms and a small dark dining room where we often sat in silent misery for shared meals. The only time we saw other doctors was at my parents' Christmas cocktail parties. Doctors would come with wives in their fur coats. I loved the smell of those coats, earthy and warm. I claimed the job of carrying them upstairs and laying them on my parents' bed. Sometimes I would bury myself beneath the coats to better breathe them in. It's odd that you can't Google my father. It's like he never existed, never worked for the Canadian government. He was a mid-level bureaucrat, but prominent enough that one year Who's Who in Canada sent him an application. He filled it out in the dog's name and sent it back. He said it was bullshit, but still talked about it a lot. Still, you'd think there would be at least a single reference to him on the internet. I can't even find his obituary. We were afraid of him. He would come home full of rage after the short walk across the lawn, as if something that had happened that day was our fault. Of course, I didn't know what it meant, how it happened, how it appeared, where we lived. I know what it means now. I don't even know if my mother knew. He never said a word about it until decades later in the 1980s, when the first public stories started coming out. He said, "Nobody ever told me about abuse. There was no abuse, definite and furious. When we played, we biked, we hid, we ran. We never knew that there were bodies buried under the grass beneath our feet, 96 of them." Decades later, when they tore the house down, I thought it was disrespectful. Now I understand that it is a sin that it ever existed. When I learned of the bodies at my childhood home, I launched a search that hasn't yet ended. I have learned that searches are complicated things with their own set of rules, and often what you think you are looking for quickly shifts into something else that was there all along. You just didn't know it. To find what is lost, you need to get your bearings. Where are you on this earth? What is your purpose here? Which parts of this story will be yours to tell after all is said and finally done? And which parts will belong to the lost if the lost is not part of you? To find what is lost, you need to know what it is. But seriously, I don't know if the things I seek were ever truly known to me. To find what is lost, gather a team to help you. Phone your oldest friend, the only one who has been to that house. They found bodies there at Kokalitsa. Did you hear? Then listen to the long silence that comes back to you. Did you hear what I said? I heard you. The quiet will tell you that this is not the person to join you on this journey at this time, in this place, for this particular kind of search. Know that memories will come unbidden and unwanted. Once you open the gate for them, they will come, but they will come angry and sad and uncomfortable. You will remember swinging high on the wooden swing and imagining your real family, the one that left you with these strangers. You will remember your sister chasing you around the rose bed, the thing the doctor was most proud of, with live worms. You will remember sheltering from family fights under the covers with a book and a flashlight, and the time you hit a neighbor for no reason other than your own sadness. None of these are the things you were looking for. Thank you.
Thank you, Janet. So everybody, this was so great. I love, I mean, I go back to this book often, often. But I love hearing you read your words. It just has an extra power to it, and reading them together. It's really, I don't you think that like all these micro chaps put together, it just has a it takes off in a different direction. That's just it amazes me. It amazes me. Um, I just want to read the last paragraph of my introduction. Grief, hope, the words are not incongruous. While at times one may overshadow the other, both must be present if we are to live full lives. I have learned a great deal from the five gorgeous voices in this volume and have been changed by each of the stories. It is my wish that readers of Grieving Hope will have a similar experience. Grieving Hope is a small volume of micro chapbooks, but it is big on wisdom and beauty. It is full of life. Thank you all for being here. Everybody who's listening in, thank you for being here as well. And Charlotte Hamrick's micro chap is equally gorgeous. Pick up the copy and read it and revisit with all these beautiful writers and their beautiful words. Thank you all for being here. Hi, Charlotte. So good to see
Hello.
you. So good to see
Oh,
you.
good to see
So
you.
we were all sad when you couldn't make it to the group reading, but I am so glad and grateful that you are here today and get the chance to read from your beautiful, beautiful micro chapbook. So which is in Grieving Hope,
Oh,
a gorgeous volume. I'm going to start by reading what I wrote about offset melodies in my introduction. In Charlotte Hamrick's lusciously lyrical offset melodies, We follow a young girl as she travels from childhood into adolescence and into young adulthood, as told through the lens of a wise adult woman looking back. The micro chapbook sings with powerful images of time and place, nature, nurture, and the disillusionments and disappointments of living and growing in an imperfect world populated by imperfect people. There are memories alongside reality, family and friends, running and being left, holding on and letting go. There is pain, there is grief, and always the narrator moves forward. She falls, she gets up, she learns, and she grows. This is a quote. All my experiences collect, filling my crack cup. I hold it tight between my finger bones. Life, love, grief, hope. I am going to, before you read, Charlotte, I just want to ask you what, when you saw the call for Grieving Hope, what did it mean to you, and how did you come to send in this gorgeous micro chapbook?
Well, when I saw the call, um, it caught my attention because it was coming from ELJ Editions and from you, because we are friends online, and I had been in several of Ariana's magazines, so and I always positive experiences. So it caught my attention. And I thought, well, I wonder. Let me look into it. And I looked into it, and I noticed that you said that you could have, I think it was 30% published
Mm-hmm.
already. So I thought, well, let me just look through my stuff and see if I see anything that'll give me an idea of what I want, what shape I want it to take. So I did, and I found, the three or four, whatever it was that I included, and then I just started thinking about, everyone has big griefs in life. You have deaths, deaths of your parents, deaths, of your older relatives. And unfortunately, people have deaths of their children, and, just all kinds of other traumas can happen in your life. But, you know, there are a lot of smaller griefs, and, losing a friend, or, something that happens in your life, in your work life, or in your personal life, that just, you know, upsets you, and it causes you grief and pain. And maybe we don't pay as much attention to those smaller things as we do the bigger things. So that's kind of what I decided to take that theme, the smaller things, some small things that happened to me. Now, all the pieces in my chapbook are not all strictly memoir. There's also some auto fiction in there. It's a mix, but I would say all of the stories have some truth in them. So, that's the tact I took, and I sat down, and I just, when I created the pieces, the additional pieces, I just thought of things in my life that I regretted, or things that upset me, or things that I wished had happened differently, and that's how I shaped the chapbook.
It's beautiful.
Ah, thank you, thank you. But yes, definitely, if it hadn't been put out by ELJ, I probably wouldn't have done it, because I really have been intimidated about thinking about putting out a book of my own. So when I saw it was a collection, and there would be other collections within it, that really gave me some security to actually do that for my first chapbook.
And how fun was that, right?
It was.
Like,
It was.
wow, it's such a unique grouping of beautiful voices and stories,
Mhm.
and yours
Oh, all
starts
of the
it
chat books
off.
are great. All of the chat books in there are wonderful. The writing, I mean, when I got my digital copy, I read everything. I think almost in like one sitting, I read everybody's chat
Yeah,
book.
yeah.
It's just beautiful.
So I'm going to read your bio, and then you're going to read for us, okay?
Okay.
Charlotte Hamrick began writing at age 53 after retiring from the healthcare field. She has been published in a number of literary journals, including Still, the Journal, the Citron Review, Atticus Review, Louisiana Literature, and her work is included in Best Small Fictions 2022 and 2023. She's had multiple literary nominations for her flash fiction and poetry, and her creative nonfiction was a finalist for the 15th Glass Woman Prize. She's managing editor for Rec and Review. She lives in New Orleans with her husband and a menagerie of rescued pets.
Yes. Okay.
Hey,
Should I take off?
take it away.
Take it away. Okay. The first one I'm reading is actually the piece that my chapbook is named for, Offset Melodies, and it was originally published in Louisiana Literature. Offset Melodies. Each morning stretches hot and indifferent. The girl works in the vegetable garden among the runner bean plants, twining the pliant tendrils around poles. The newly born plants that emerge from dry brown seeds are flexible and soft in her hands. The heart-shaped leaves hum as she works, hum heart-shaped songs or songs that shape hearts. All the girl knows about hearts is that hers is still and dry as a stone vessel waiting to be filled. Once the girl's heart was alive with curiosity, flowers, and freedom, embraced by never-ending story time, twilight sing-alongs, and hands that always gave. It becomes harder to remember the soaring joy of her once-filled heart, to believe it will ever be filled again. Each morning's blooms of bejeweled red ruffles wave at the girl in waiting, at her poor, dry heart in waiting. The flowers whisper words that mingle with the humming, heart-shaped leaves. Whisper, waiting is good practice for fulfilling. The girl rubs her thumbs over the sun-soaked leaves, feels hundreds of vibrating hearts humming together. Deeper still, she feels a mother thrumming from the furrowed earth that birthed the bean plants, that birthed every plant since the Big Bang. Mothers are made, not born. They are a want to be, not a given. Each morning she watches as the bean pods flourish. She rubs them between her fingers and thumb, feels their growing fullness, tends the twining vines, how they whisper and hum in her hands. You are the only one our hearts beat for. Flutter goes her heart. The second one is titled Bus Ticket. The bus doors closed with a squeak and a whoosh. The cloud of her hair drifted down the aisle, settling in a window. This is how I imagined it the afternoon Deanie made good on her decision to run away. I had decided to stay behind, but had a hand in the logistics of her flight. I stood behind the counter in the drugstore where I worked, dusting shelves while watching for the 2:15 bus. I knew she would pass on the street outside, never believing she'd actually go through with it. I'd lent my car to her for the drive to the bus station, so when my coworker dropped me off there after work, I expected my keys to be hidden under the seat. They were not. I was stranded with no choice but to call my mom. I had planned to keep her secret, but I was never a good liar. Truth is, I didn't even ask where her ticket would take her. I was holding on to the hope that she'd drive up at quitting time when we'd go to the Sonic, order our customary chili cheese dog and tater tots, and continue the thread of our small town trajectory. For years after, I thought of her almost every day. Sometimes I imagined she was living the different kind of life she wanted, happy and carefree. Sometimes I imagined she was married with little cotton-headed children. Sometimes, and this scared the hell out of me, I imagined she was living on the streets but too proud to call for help. Mostly, though, I thought about our bond of not fitting in and the times we held each other up in the laughing and the crying. Now only memories. Chili cheese dogs and tater tots never tasted the same again.
So beautiful, Charlotte.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Thank
Thank you.
you. And thank you for being a part of this and for coming on and reading and just beautiful. Just beautiful.
Well, thank you. Well, I'm sorry I missed the original reading, but I'm really happy that I'm added.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We all are too. So
Thank
thank
you.
you.